you're not even actually doing anything. And the leaders out there will be listening to this will know.
People want people that look positive as well, not only
100%.
getting the job done.
The people that have the most things in the win column, they're the people that are going to get hired.
Another bonus tip on top of that. So if the person you're shadowing with or the meeting you're having is with a manager, it is really good. And this is an interview question.
From like an organizational standpoint as well. But the idea that it's bad if you develop your people because they will leave. Welcome to the Disrupt Leaders podcast. We've got an absolute banger topic for you today, a huge question, something that we've seen circulating in so many leadership forums. So I'm not going to muck around. I'm going to get straight into it, Jules. I'm going to ask you this right up. Is developing your people going to hurt your business?
No.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Excellent topic. Thank you. I think we've covered that off completely. I don't think there's anything else we need to say, extrapolate upon that.
Yeah, here comes 1 million views, our shortest video ever. This is probably straight away, we can put this on TikTok because it's probably, what was this? Not even a minute, not even a minute.
It's ready to rip. So thank you very much for coming. Like, subscribe, follow, help the channel out a ton. Buy a Disrupt Leaders t-shirt when they're on sale. They're not really on sale. All right. No, but the thing is actually, Jules, it's on this subject. This is, that actually is the subject for our podcast today because it's come up in a few places. So I'd like to tell you this question came from you to me. Where did this come from, this question that you asked the other day?
Yeah, so I was talking to a leader earlier this week and we were talking about what do we want to be known for as leaders? What's our brand going to be as leaders? And one of the things I mentioned was I want to be known as a platform for career growth. So if anyone comes to my team, they deal with me in any way, they're going to get really good career advice and move on to something they're more passionate about and is more fitting of their skill level. Yeah. And what this person at that point looked at me and went, why would you want to do that? You'll be left with no one in your team and you'll have to pick up all the pieces. And also, if your business is not doing much of recruiting, you're selling them the wrong idea. And I was completely flabbergasted by that. I put up a TikTok post about it as well. And I definitely vented to you about it. So yeah, I thought good video idea.
Yeah, it just rattles me. Just the level of selfishness in that comment. And I don't know about you. I feel this, and I'm going to say this, listeners, if that is your opinion, if you feel that way, if you feel that you shouldn't be developing your people because it's bad for you, it's bad for the business, whatever, maybe you shouldn't be a leader, right? And for a couple of reasons. So we're going to get into the why that we don't believe in this, why we think developing your people is so good. And then in the latter half of the video, we will get into how to develop your people as well, and we'll touch on that a little bit. And obviously, as always, if you've got any thoughts as we go along, anything that you think Jules and I miss off, please do drop a comment and let us know. To be honest, my first thoughts on this, before we get into the why, Jules, not even necessarily like why for the business, why for my people, none of that sort of stuff. For me, simply, single answer, developing your people and watching them succeed, grow, do something else is the best part of this role. And it's not close. How many videos have I said that it is the champagne of victory, seeing your people develop, seeing your people get better, seeing your people go on to something else? It is literally like, in my opinion, like ordering a BLT and then taking out the bacon and then throwing it away and then just eating a lettuce and tomato sandwich. Like, no disrespect to people who like lettuce and tomato sandwiches, but it ain't as good as a BLT, is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't fathom it, Jules.
No, we said it the other day as well. What I said earlier, I said it's like having the mac and cheese without cheese. Now you're just doing macaroni art is what you're doing. If you're not developing your people, it's baffling to think that your people will just hang on with you. If you're a frontline leader and you're expecting people to just hang around for nothing, really, once they get that first year and a half, 2 years of exposure to your company, they understand all the processes, they understand the going-ons of the business, what's really there for them to hang around in your team for? And you probably, we'll get this in a little bit, you probably don't want them to hang around as well. I'll be honest with you.
Correct. Funnily enough, Jules, right? Having developed employees means you have better employees. And believe it or not, having better employees typically leads to better results. Believe it or not. It's such a narrow and short-minded concept, that idea as well. Like getting into this a little bit, what you were just saying, the idea that if you develop all your people, they'll leave and you'll be left with no one. What are you going to do then? Like, your people are going to leave if you don't develop them. Right? I think people don't leave organizations if they're getting fulfillment, right? And that comes from a bunch of things. Obviously, money is definitely one, especially in today's economy, money is important. But career fulfillment, job fulfillment, knowing that you're developing, that you are growing as a person is such a massive thing for people. And for the idea that you're not giving your people that so they stay is so backwards because it makes them so much more likely to leave, in my opinion. Like Like, whereas if you're giving them development, you're selling them a vision, they can see the purpose of why they're here. They're far more likely to stay. And I think you're just on a really good point. What you expect your people just to sit next to you and grind for the next 40 years of their life while you yourself develop. And my question from this sense, to the person that said it to you, like, do they think would they feel happy if their leader thought the same thing or said the same thing? You know what I mean?
Selfish is the best way to explain that, because it could be, very well could be, that this person's really happy in their leadership role, and maybe they don't have much career aspirations outside of that role. So they're just thinking about their own corner of life. I think people do get into that little shell. I think they go, oh, okay, like I'm happy kind of in middle management or lower management position because it gives me a good work-life balance, all that kind of stuff. So why would I move? Your people aren't in that position, though. Then they haven't achieved lower or middle management yet to assume that they're okay. And frontline jobs are draining. There's no way to put it otherwise. Like it is a draining role because you're going through so much of workload. There's so much of changes, no matter what industry you're in. It's constantly changing. There's different clients, and some clients aren't understanding and some are. And there is an expiration date on how long you can do that role for. And you need to understand that. If you don't understand that, I think you're completely blind as a leader and you're hamstringing yourself and your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on a really good point there. It's all around like hamstringing your team. I joked a little bit about it earlier, like having better employees leads to better results, right? And I think we need to talk about that from like an organizational standpoint as well. But the idea that it's bad if you develop your people because they will leave. They will be leaving like mostly within the business and up the chain. And that means they're going to other internal departments, which means the company as a whole is getting stronger. And the idea, like that's, for me, that's your purpose as a leader, right? Like the idea is you get your team of 10, 12 people, the top 2 or 3 are ready to move on, they move on, and then you bring another 2 or 3 in. And you constantly have this cycle. If you're actually doing your job correctly and people are developing, it means more opportunities for recruitment to go out and do recruiting. If we're not currently at the moment, it's probably because things are a bit stagnant, right? And I don't know. And I'm lost at this actually. Like it's just such a foreign concept to me that I'm struggling to like wrap my brain around it almost. Yeah. Because it makes no sense. Like the benefits are innumerable.
In this day and age of efficiencies, like we're trying to find efficiencies for everything, especially for the front line. We're trying to reduce the amount of inquiries that might be taking or the amount of touch points clients might be going through, etc. Having people that have experienced the front line and have moved on to high levels of management within the team or into more process related roles means they know what's going to work on the front line. You've got now people that have experienced both ends of the spectrum. They've experienced what works in the front line with the consumer, and they know what's going to work in terms of a management perspective as well. That's just a marriage made in heaven. You know what I mean? You need those people to make sure the trains run on time, to make sure the process actually the process actually work out for the business in the long run.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense to allow people that are good. And on that point as well, and we were talking about this before, Bill, right? Is that not everyone in your team is going to progress as well. I don't know what kind of teams people have there. I mean, not everyone is 10 out of 10 legendary status. They're ready to go into the next role. Some people might take a bit longer to get there. And the fact is, some people may never get there, right? Like their personal branding might not be good enough within the organization. They just might not have the personality or the proper motivations to move on as well within the organization anyway. So this idea of that suddenly you're going to be just a manager by themselves, just sitting there just with no one to manage. I think it's such an unrealistic view of things as well, and such a pessimistic view on things.
You know what it reminds me of actually? Literally something you and I spoke about, and I reckon it was the coaching episode. It comes back to seeing your people as commodities and not as assets. I think that's what this comes back to. I think the idea of being like, oh, I can't have them, developed, because if they develop, then they'll leave and they'll go away, and then they're no value to me. And that's absolutely not what people are. People are assets. The more you develop them, the better they are. And I think we spoke about this previously. It's like owning a car versus owning a house. People are like owning a house. Like if you invest in a house, you do landscaping, you paint the walls, you do a bunch of renovations to the house, it's worth more. And then eventually you've got a portfolio of houses that are worth more than what you had before. That's exactly what having staff members like. That's exactly what having people are like. And, if you're developing your people, as a leader, some of that could mean that they're actually going to take some work off your plate in the interim as well, because they're able to step up and take on those extra things, run a huddle if you're sick, do a little bit of extra reporting and stuff that you normally do to free you up with other times in your day. The benefits to you as an individual are massive, let alone to the rest of your team. That's why I just think, I think in my mind, there are 0 reasons to not do it versus innumerable reasons to do it. It's better for the employee. They're likely to be happier employees perform better. They're more likely to stick around, which increases job retention, which, by the way, saves the company more money than recruiting the new people eventually, because they're not having to retrain all new people, right?
Yeah, correct.
There's just the list goes on, right?
For the lazy leader out there, the lazy leader who wants to get away with the bare minimum, right? If you've got a team that is seeing that progression is an option within your company, and you're actively, they see that you as a leader is supporting it, they're most likely to go along with the things you say as well. If you've got a team that knows progression is an option, that's one less carrot you can use to get to motivate them, right? And they ain't met many carrots when you're a leader, trust me, right? This is probably one of the biggest carrots that I ever use. The second thing as well is, if these people do progress and they go to other roles, those things that you hate as a leader that your company does, right? When these people go into those roles, you've got an advocate for you in those roles. So if you want to affect a change that's going to make your life easier, you've got a pony in the game. And then just the last thing, the last thing I would say in terms of is going to help you as a leader is, if you've got people that are progression oriented, as Bill said, they're 100% going to take things off your plate. It's going to be less stuff for you to do over the day, over the week. They're going to run huddles. They're going to take over other things because they want to show everyone else in the business how good they are at these tasks. Now, you could see that as a threat. I wouldn't. I would see that as, hey, you can spin that to an opportunity for yourself. It would get you, again, if you're a lazy person, you can still spin that as an opportunity for yourself and go, hey guys, look how good of a leader I am because my people are stepping up and your people aren't. Simple as that.
It's funny you say that. I was literally, as you're talking, I was just thinking this, right? All the reasons we've given so far, I don't feel like we need to go into this too much more, right? Because I think that the listeners at home, if they've got a brain, should understand that, like, developing people is great, all right? Thinking about it this way, just from a purely selfish perspective, if we want to go down that selfish route, right, and be that way, the more people I develop, the better it makes me look. I'm not going to be sitting there with no people underneath me, right? If I've developed that many people and got no people underneath me, I'm going to another company, knocking on their door, and being like, hey, this is how good I am at developing people. I developed so many people that we've got like I've got no team anymore because they all left me. And you watch how many companies start throwing the bag at you. You know, it is such a green tick on you as a leader if you're able to get the best out of people and if you're able to push people on. If you can promote 10 people and so be able to sit there and be like, look at all these people that's careers I've helped grow in your year in review conversation, that is definitely a massive win in you for the win column, you know, just from a purely selfish perspective. So I can't fathom the idea of, dude, madness. Now I feel like it might be time, I don't know if you're ready, to get into how we like to develop our people, because there is a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different avenues that we can take this conversation. Where would you like to start, Jules? Because there's just developing within their current role, developing into another role. What would you consider first?
Yeah, I think it depends where in their life cycle they are as employees. Now, in most frontline roles, rule of thumb is 18 months to 2 years is where they'll probably get itchy feet anyway. And then they're probably at the right level of ripeness in terms of their knowledge, their capability, exposure to the rest of the company to take that next step. Does that mean you wait till 18 months? Hell no, you don't wait till 18 months. I think there's different kind of schools of thoughts on this. I kind of start planting the seed pretty early within those kind of first few months of joining. I'll increase the intensity of that conversation as it goes along. So at the very start, it might be, okay, listen, let's make sure you're capable, you're comfortable in your role, you're feeling good, you know who the people are within the company, etc. And then every month or so, just lead in a small conversation around, okay, what do you love about this role? And start to get them thinking about the things that they would like to have in their next role, etc. But I wouldn't make it a networking conversation at that time. I'm interested in what you think, Bill, but I wouldn't make it a massive conversation at that time. By the time it comes to their year mark, that's when I really intensify it. So I'll really start to making connections. Ask them, have they got their resume ready? Are they looking around? Are they talking to other managers within the business? Are they shadowing? Are they networking? All that kind of stuff. Those conversation will intensify a lot more around that 12-month to 18-month mark.
Yeah. I think you're very much right. I might pick up at it in a slightly different way, but I think very, very similar. And I think you touched on a really good point around like, if we're thinking 18 months to 2 years is when they like look to leave. I definitely think you start way early in that. So the idea is when they get to 18 to 2 months, they're ready to leave, not looking to leave.
Correct.
I actually, for the longest time, I've trained the newest people. So literally, they get hired into the company that I work for, and then they come through to me, right? And then they would stay with me for a little while, and then they go to other people. That's what I was responsible for ages. I would actually have the conversation first thing, like it literally one of the first one-on-ones, but not a full conversation. What I would say to them is, hey, look, within this role, you are in this role for 18 months. It's in your contract. So as you know, but that doesn't mean we wait to 18 months, blah, blah, blah. Then what I would say is, I don't want you to necessarily get stressed about career stuff right now, but what I do want you to do just over the next few months, just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open to anything that you think is interesting. Anything that like grabs you and makes you go, oh, I'd love to know more about that team, and I'd love to know more about that thing. And just to kind of like get them excited and let them know that I think that their career goals are important to me. So even though they've just started, I don't want them stressing about it. And I always stress this as well. I don't want it to be like, something that's on your mind the whole time. I don't think you have to come to me in 2 weeks' time and tell me your entire career plan, but just something to let you know that I'm aware of it. And if something does strike you, if you do feel like you've been struck by lightning, come to me, my door's open, and then we can start to do that. The next time I have that conversation, you check in every now and then, just ask, has anything caught your interest recently? Is there any departments or whatever? But I think 6 months is the next time that I start to go, okay, you passed your probation period now. Have you thought about it? Anything starts to interest you? What I think is really good is between 6 to 12 months is when I would start to like put a few fingers in a few pies. Maybe go sit with a department for half an hour. Maybe just go and see what this person does. Yeah, nothing too hectic and definitely not too like targeted. But if there's 2, 3, 4 things you think you're interested in, dabble. Then when we get to 12 months, much like you said, all right, let's lock in. What have you found? What have you enjoyed? What do you like? What do you want to do? What are your thought processes? And then we can really start leaning in like networking, getting to know the people and all the extra stuff, which you can go to in a minute or two if you want. So that's kind of how I do it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're very similar. I bring in the career conversation quite a bit. As I said before, it's one of my biggest carrots when it comes to talking to people, motivating them. I think now that we've talked about the timelines, the other small adjustment as well is that, so even now in our current role, I always talk to them about 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. So I talk first 6 months is competence and capability, right? The next 6 months is about branding. So that about your branding, spreading your brand to other departments, even within your own department. And then the next 6 months, which makes up your full 18 months, is full overdrive looking for your next career. And so putting your feelers out, right? So that's usually how I compartmentalize in my head when I'm talking to people, and I get them to start thinking about that in their head as well. Let's probably dial down maybe on the second 6 months and the end of the 18 months. So one of the first things I do 100% same as you, Bill, is shadowing. Yes. In a lot of the cases, especially when your frontline's your first job, you probably don't have a great indication of what other roles look like, what do they actually do. I've gone through this myself, right? I'll be like, I want to be a financial planner at one point, right? And I did the financial planning course. Lo and behold, after I did the financial planning course, I did a whole bunch of shadowing within the company I was with financial planners and decided financial planning is not for me. But I've already done the course. If anyone wants financial advice, please don't come to me though. So I think it's important to give your people a taste of what other people do, because from the outset you might think, oh geez, that job sounds really interesting. You know what I mean? Or they think, I just want to get off the phones or get off a frontline role. But you might not really like some of these things. So some people like a lot of structure and some roles don't have structure, and some people like a lot of people orientation.
That is a really good call out. Now, there's like 2 major pieces of advice I give when it comes to like looking at jobs and stuff. This is the first one. We'll circle back to the second one later. One key thing that I say, and this is for the when you've got people out there going and shadowing, or you yourself, you're going out there shadowing, there's 2 questions I always get them to ask the other person when they're doing the shadowing. The first is, what do you like about this role? Learn some of the positives, get that. The second is, what do you not like about this role? Like, what's the negative of this role? Now, the reason I like this question, and I've said this before, most roles, every role, has a positive and a negative, right? Like every single role you do, no matter what it is, no matter where you work, there are good things, there are bad things. For example, if you're frontlines and you're on the phone, the positive usually is at the end of the day, you log off, you're done. You can go home, there's no stress, nothing to think about. You can literally switch off. The negative is you're locked in taking calls for 40 hours a week, and it can just be a little draining, a little strenuous, a little tiring, so on. But the thing is, with most roles, the positive is a good thing. To like the positive is really important. But if you hate the negative, the role is not for you, in my opinion. And I've seen a lot of my people when I've been like trying to develop them and stuff, and they start telling me, oh, I really want to go to, quality management. I want to go and listen to calls and stuff. And much to your point, Jules, they actually just want to be off the phones, right?
Yeah.
And the being off the phones is such a positive that they're not even thinking about the negative. You know what's worse than taking calls for 40 hours a week, Jules? Listening to somebody else take calls for 40 hours a week, because it is one step removed. You're not even actually doing anything. And the leaders out there will be listening to this will know there's nothing worse than listening to a call that's not going well. It is one of the most, I've listened to a 5-minute call that's taken me 15 minutes before, because I keep pausing it to walk away because I'm cringing so hard at just how poorly it's being handled. It happens. And so if the negatives are not for you, then maybe the role is not for you, is kind of my thoughts on that. And so I think it's a really good question to kind of get to the heart of that. And what we hear, my second piece of advice is very much related. It is, whenever you're going to these people, do not tell them that you're interested in the role because you want to get off the phone. As much as you want to get off the phone, that's not the reason you're there. The reason you're there is because you're interested in that role. Always talk about what you're getting out of the role you're going into, not what you're getting away from. All the time.
Another bonus tip on top of that. So if the person you're shadowing with or the meeting you're having is with a manager, it is really good. And this is an interview question. I think you've heard me share this before, Bill. The interview question as well is ask them what their pain points are. So what are your pain points as a manager in this business? And what would a new person help you solve? Because as leaders, we're sitting here going, oh, geez, I wish I had someone. Because sometimes you look at your team like just a picture puzzle, right? Everyone brings a certain element to your business, and you might be missing this element, right? So you might go, listen, I'm really looking for this person. Now, at that time, hey, I can either be that, I can be this person. So if you want, I want a really engaging person because I've got a whole bunch of real product experts and they're really good with their processes, but they're not really good at communicating them. So I need a communicator. You might go, can I be the communicator? Yes or no? And then you also give an idea of how soon can you slot into that role as well. So if you're not the communicator and you need to build some skills and that's going to take you 6 months, then you've got to go, okay, am I willing to wait 6 months to get into this role? Am I willing to put in the effort to build those skills to get into this role? Do I care about this role enough? It gives you a lot of information around that. Also tells the leader as well, this person is quite switched on. They're actually thinking about me. And as a leader, you want people that think about you as well. As much as like we've spoken about in the last few episodes about like where you need to be unselfish as a leader, you need to be okay with people going past you, all that kind of stuff. It is nice to be thought about, Bill. You know what I mean? It's nice for people to think about you.
Easier for me to be thinking about my people if they're also thinking about me. You know what I mean? Like it's very symbiotic, I think. And like, a lot of motivating people is to make sure they're happy in their role. But the reason I want them happy in their role is to get good results, right? Those two things are very symbiotic, but you're exactly right. Like it's not like you should be selfless, of course. But then it helps if everybody feels the same way. So I think you're exactly right. And I think that interview question, you told me that months ago, it's one of my all-time favorites. I think it is absolutely like a God tier question, and something that I also encourage my staff members when they're in that space, having that conversation to find out like, what does the team need? Like what's going on? I also think, I don't know how you feel about this, Jules. I think when going there, if you do like it and you enjoy that conversation, if you send your people there and they enjoy it, I tell them not to be super coy about that or the fact that that's what they're interested in. Like, let the leader know, tell them, like, look, I had a fantastic time sitting with your person the other day. I loved it. I actually think this is something I'm really interested in exploring. Is there anything else I can take on? Anything else I can do? Any other online learnings, articles I can read, workshops I can put myself down for? Like, is there any other set of skills that you want me to start working on now so that if and when a role comes up that I would be a good fit for this role? And I think, again, much back to like you're saying, as a leader, someone says that to you like, damn, actually, this is what I want. Like, and the reason I say that is when your person is going against 10 other people for a role, but your person's the only person that's had that conversation and really put that extra work in and gone that extra mile, the others are going to have to interview really effing well to get a role above someone that you've already got that connection with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it puts a face to the name, right? Like people hire people they like. I saw a TikTok yesterday, I think it was, and it was like a corporate manager, and he was talking about the fact that when you get into a role, you want to make sure you get in there because somebody liked you in the interview. And don't get that mistaken with anything else, because there's plenty of people that are qualified for the role. I'm sure out of the 100 or so applicants, there's at least 20 that were qualified. It's not so much about your qualifications. Somebody in that interview went, oh, I could work with this person.
That's the guy. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So you want to give them that essence. The other tip around that is, I'll tell people, is show them a bit of your personality. You know what I mean? Like, I think because it avoids two mistakes. If you don't show personality and you just show absolute keenness for the role and they don't know what you're like, they might mistake that for the personality they want. And when you join the team and you don't match their expectations, it could sour that relationship. Plus, you won't enjoy yourself. If that manager doesn't think that personality fits in their team and you get into that team, like, you don't want to be hiding your personality, who you are, and constantly having to go undercover, because that's going to be just not enjoyable to anyone in that particular scenario.
I have seen so many people be corporate robot, meet till they get into a leadership role. And then when they get into a leadership role, stop being a corporate, because they're in the leadership role, they can just actually be themselves. And then it just completely crumble and they end up losing some comments, things like that, because they're just not actually what the person thought they were. And it's not good for anyone. It is literally like dating, right? Like when you meet someone of the opposite gender, whatever, there's no point of the same gender, whatever. When you meet a potential partner and you meet them and then you're like, be a fake version of you, eventually 2 years down the line when you're living together, you're not going to hold that in for the rest of your life. So just be you. And it's the same at work. Be yourself. Be authentic. I'm not saying act like you do with the boys or the girls at home, like your besties or whatever. I'm not saying that, but like, be you. Authentically you, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's like, there's one other thing I do actually with this. So usually if someone tells me, let's say someone in my team, young Julian comes to me, bright-eyed, looks up at me, goes, Bill, I really want to go to this department. I'd love to. I'm interested, Bill. I would probably let the leader know someone is going to reach out to them, but I won't reach out and organize the actual catch-up. I like my people to do it.
Yeah,
I think it shows more initiative and it shows your ego. And I say this to people all the time. When I say it to my people, it is your career. When it comes to ideas for your career, I'm happy to, if I think of one, I'm happy to share it. I'm happy to do a lot of work for you, whatever. But it's your career, not mine. You should be coming up with more of the ideas. You should be doing more of the work than I'm doing for your career. At the end of the day, you should. And I think part of that is reaching out. I shouldn't be like your dad holding your hand, walking you up and being like, this is my son. This is my son, Julian. Would you like to, hire him? Can you give him an apple? No.
Yeah. Great.
You should be big enough.
Yeah, that's a great call. And the other layer that I want to add to that is, if you make the connection for them and manage that connection, it is your connection, not theirs. And you want it to be their network, not your network.
Same.
This actually happened this very week. I actually spoke to you about it before the recording. I'm getting different subject matter experts and people who are in manager roles in different parts of our company to come and speak to my people. But what I've done is I've got a couple of people in my team to liaise with that person and manage that conversation. So what I told them is, listen, I'll get you the contact, I'll get you the name, but you guys chat with them, work out the time they're going to come in, when are they coming, who's coming in, and also I want you to go to the rest of the staff and get the questions as well. Now, the reason why I picked these two is they've expressed that they want to get into some of these roles that the contacts are in. So I said, you go to the rest of the staff and go, hey, this person's coming now 3 Wednesdays from now. Can you guys give us some questions you want to ask this person? Send the person the questions so they can prep and come into all the things that they're saying are directed to you guys. So you do all that though. I ain't going to do any of that. So all I did was got the name, send them the name, go, here's the person, reach out. Mate, if you don't do it, you don't do it. Like hands wash this. But it does a couple of things. It builds their brand with that person, right? It builds that brand with that department as well. The second thing as well is gets them to start thinking like a leader, right? Like you're liaising with other people, you're trying to get stuff sorted out, you're working with the other team members, trying to get their input on stuff. It teaches them so many skills in one go
100%.
that it's the best way to go forward.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. There's a lot of those like intangible skills. You can't be taught that any other way than doing it. You have to do it. You have to write those emails. I don't know about you, the amount of times I've asked someone, I'll just write an email to that department, and they do, and it's terrible. Right? You know what I mean? Like it's just a simple email asking someone to come to me and I'm like, who wrote this? But it's just in practice, And again, I'll proofread anything before they send it, right? Like if you want to send it to me before you send it off so I can read it and I can help you tweak it, whatever, but it's help you tweak it. And I think it just like you have to teach them those skills through doing. It's not something you can learn through like saying or watching me do it, And to that subject, actually, if you've got someone that wants to be a leader, I think it's more imperative to like give them a lot of opportunities to be a leader within the team. Or if you've got someone that wants to go to another department, make them the subject matter expert for that department. Like if they want to go to quality, they're the team's quality champion. And the team's quality marking scores become their responsibility as much as the other people's, and identifying gaps. And I had a girl ages ago, this is years ago, my previous company, that was her goal. She wanted to go into quality, right? In that workplace, everyone and their dog wanted to go into quality because they wanted to be off the phone. Kind of spoke about this a bit earlier. And so that's what I did. I made her the team's quality champion. And what I would do is once a week, it was a fair bit of work for me, actually. I would go through and I would snip every single like comment and feedback from every single quality marking, send it to her. Obviously stripping out names so no one knew whose was who, anything like that. And then she would put together like an email in the huddle once a week. She'd catch up and she'd take through any common trends, things like that. And it was a bunch of additional work responsibilities. But when an interview's quality management comes out, she's already doing half the things that they already do. She's got so many things on her resume, so many things she can talk about in the interview that 50, 60 other, people don't have because she's been living it and breathing it and doing it. And I think intangible. And on that subject, actually, just sorry to go off on a tangent, but it's making me think because at the same time, I had 2 people in my team that wanted to go to the same department, right? And I gave them both the same advice. Reach out, organize things. And I said, hey, they've got their own team meeting. There's a calibrations for quality management. They do calibrations on a Wednesday at 4:00. Shoot them an email, see if you can go. If they respond saying yes, let me know. I'll book it in. I'll be there. You can come along, whatever. I went. The girl that did all that additional work went. And another girl didn't go. And she emails me. She's like, I just found out that this other person is in this video and I'm not, blah, 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 blah. Huge angry rant message at me. And I just replied, I told you both to email them to ask if you could go. She emailed to ask if she could go. Did you? Do you think I got a response?
No.
I did not. Yeah. Of course not. Of course not. But that's my point. Why should I, you know what I mean? As a leader, like if you really want it, you should be willing to go above and beyond and do a little bit of additional work outside of what you're doing to set yourself apart. And if you're not willing to do it, why should I? Why should I do the work for you if it's your career and you're not interested enough to put the effort in?
And this feeds into our point earlier in the conversation, right? Not everyone in your team will end up progressing. Despite of your best efforts and despite of you working with them as well, some people might not have the, how can I say, the gumption or the actual
drive.
Motivation. Yeah, just the drive, sorry. Yeah, the drive to apply for those roles. It is hard. Don't get me wrong, like, mate, applying for roles and fixing up your resume and networking and stuff, it's not easy stuff, right?
Yeah.
All we're saying as leaders is you need to provide everyone equal access to those opportunities though. Right? Like just because we don't want them to leave for some arbitrary reason, but you don't want to be doing that. You want to be going, hey guys, I'm going to open the doors for you. It is up to them to walk through that and then take on the effort, do all the things they need to do to build the skills to get to the place they need to get to. The other thing I was going to talk to you about as well is talking about giving them people things to do that can go into that resume, right? What I've noticed a lot is that before joining this particular job we're in right now, Bill, like I did a whole bunch of interviews because I was made redundant from my previous role. And one of the things I noticed the most from the interviews I was going to was they didn't really care about my job description was previously in terms of those fast-paced work team, collaboration, all that kind of stuff that you lovely put into your resume. They didn't really care about those. What they really care about was your achievements column. You know what I mean? The column where you go, these are the things I went above and beyond my role to do, right? Yeah. So you need to be giving people things that they can put in that achievements column. It's something that's broad reaching, that looks really cool on a resume. So you can't just be like, oh yeah, okay, this is good. But as Bill said, if you're looking to get in quality or say this person's really interested in getting into a sales role and they're currently in the service role, how can you show things like negotiation skills? Maybe that could be stakeholder management. Maybe there's a stakeholder you need to manage, give them that. And that's an example that they take with them to go to the interview and also on their resume. They can really put forward to the fact that they can influence other people, things like that.
Wait, if you were hiring a manager for your footy team, right? Like your footy team, you hire a manager. Would you hire a manager that's got a bunch of good like possession stats, passing accuracy, the team's really good? Or do you hire a manager that has the most wins? It's one that has the most wins. And it is the same for your people. The people that have the most things in the win column, they're the people that are going to get hired. And so it's about giving your people that opportunity to win. Now, one last thing from me that I think is crucially important that we haven't spoken about in terms of developing your people, and it's not necessarily something you can directly influence to some extent, branding, right? Especially if you work in a frontline place, because you have a brand. And the funny thing about this, if you work in a kind of frontline place, contact center, retail, whatever, you have a brand, your place has a brand. There's no getting away from it. Some people hate that comment. Some people hate the fact that people do have a brand, but it is true. What you are known for, what you are known as, has such reach and such lasting implications. I say that, like, I hate using this term because it makes it sound negative, but it's like a virus. It just spreads. Whether it's positive or negative, it spreads, and people will know you. People who know of you will know you. And so there's a couple of things that I always suggest to my people, and I assume you're the same, Jules. Things just like making sure you're going to networking events, making sure you're saying hello in office, making sure when you're in office, you're presentable, you're being friendly, a lot of those small things. And I think you have to leave a lot of that to them, and a lot of their work will speak for themselves as well. But this is to my last point on this. The bit that you can influence as a leader, and something you should do, in my opinion, to develop your people, is take every single opportunity you have to talk about how well your people are doing. In so many meetings, the focus will always be on the bottom people. Your managers will always default to the bottom of the list. They'll always look at the worst performers because that's obviously their focus. That's what they're important to them. And that's fine. That's what we need to work on as leaders. We need to focus on as people as well. But you need to make sure that the leaders also see the other people. And not just the people at the top either. I'm talking about the people that have improved significantly as well. If you've had someone and you've been working on, let's say, their average handling time for 6 weeks, and they've had massive improvements, even if they're not at the top, call that out. Tell your manager, I'm so impressed with how they've taken on my feedback. I'm so impressed with, I've given them these ideas. They've run with it. They've done this and this. If you've got those people that are doing that extra work, putting that quality pack together, make sure everyone in their dog knows. And a lot of people that work with me right now are sick of this from me, because I talk about my team so much. It's all I do. Everything that anyone in my team does even remotely well, I literally have to let everyone in their dog know, because it makes such a difference down the line. Let's say I tell my boss's boss something, or my boss's boss, and then all of a sudden 6 months later, they're in an interview. Oh, I actually know that person. Apparently they do really good work. That's all it takes. If the only thing some boss 4x up here is this person does a good job, that's what will stick in their mind.
I hate managers that take credit for their people's work. Like, it is a massive tenet of my personal value system. So when I go into something, if someone's contributed to a little bit in one iota, I am mentioning that straight off the bat, because I want to celebrate this person and what they've done. And you want to be the kind of person shouting their names out of the rooftop. I got a really good story around this. I was a manager, and one of the people I was working with, I used to go to meetings, go, this person's done this week. And just like that, like every meeting I'll be like mentioning their name. And they were applying for another role within another, I was working another branch at that time. And literally that manager, or the email goes, oh, hey, Jules, this person just applied for this role. Still the same is all they ask, right? So still the same question mark, right? And I was like, what? And I told them, I was like, still the same what? And they're like, oh, no, I'm just asking, are they still the same as what you've been banging on about for the last 6 months? And I was like, yeah, they're still really good. They're like, oh, great. Okay, I'm going to hire them. I was like, sweet, take them. Like, they're great. But I think that was a testament to how many times I was mentioning this person's name every time we went to an interview. And it wasn't that I didn't have a great friendship with this person or anything like that. In all honesty, they were just elite. There are people that I'm friends with that I don't think are great fits for certain roles. And I wouldn't honestly recommend them. I wouldn't be like, oh, mate, like this person, we will be great for this regardless of what. And I think that's the other thing as well, when it comes to giving people the limelight. What I mentioned before was equal opportunity. I think you need to make sure everyone in your team knows for sure that you're not playing favorites here. You're giving everyone the same opportunities. Bill gave those two individuals the same opportunity to get that meeting invite, but only one of them went forward. But I think it's very clear, you need to be very clear that this is just, everyone's got to get an opportunity. I'm going to give everyone the career conversation. And so you don't get any animosity within the team as well.
Oh, I don't know. I told my team. I told them day one. Because for those of you who don't know, if you listened to our last episode, Jules and I got new teams with them last week. Day one, morning one, huddle one. I was like, just letting you all know, I do have favorites. Like, I pick favorites, I play favorites, 100%. Like, if I'm open to bribery, open to blackmail. And then one person was like, oh, that's not very nice. And I was like, well, I guess we know who my least favorite is. Eruption. They loved it.
Yeah.
But
I think I think when you say favorites though, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So I think that the favorites part though, is people that put in the effort for you, right? That's who your favorites are. It's not, your favorites aren't based on, I really like this person's personality more than anything else. You know what I mean? Like, and it could
And
be
also
that too.
being my favorite is equal opportunity. Like anyone, you can become my favorite very easily. Like it's very,
Yeah,
like it's very fluid system around favoritism around here.
Yeah,
So it is equal
yeah.
opportunity in that sense. But I did think
Yeah.
it's actually funny. We're talking about this whole like, you know, giving credit where it's due thing. And I realized that you and I actually did this literally today. So you invited me into a group chat because someone asked you a question. Some like a big, but I don't even know who she is, but she's like a big boss somewhere. And she asked you a question. You didn't know you added me. And then I added one of my employees and then she answered it. And then you and I spent the next 10 minutes being like, wow, this person's the great in this chat with this like this like big boss. And then this big boss is just like, yes, this person is actually the GOAT. Race of all that. And then we were like, so some random big boss in some department that I have no idea now has that opinion of one of my people. We literally did it to someone today. So it's something that we do live and we do breathe. And we made sure that this big boss, we could have absolutely taken the credit and been like, oh yeah, we got that sorted. But we didn't.
Yeah, correct. I wish we could almost share that chat because I feel like the special vibes unit was out and flying. Person actually commented to me later on saying, I love the sense of humor you guys had and the amount of support you gave that person. And I was like, oh yeah, no, it's all good. She's genuinely quite good. That's a combination of all the things we've spoken about in this conversation so far. We were not afraid to show our personality. And I think us showing our personality allowed the individual we were hyping up to show her personality as well, which is great. I think that person was like, oh yeah, like this person's also going over there. That person felt a lot easier about sharing information with us as well and going along with what we were talking about as well. And I think just put everything to ease. So I think when you're talking about your people, don't just mention that they're doing a good job as well. Like color between the lines, like what is the actual value they're saying? You know, I mean, don't be afraid to be humorous about them as well and bring them into conversations that are lighthearted as well. People want people that look positive as well, not only
100%.
getting the job done, but getting the job done in the right value system as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, at the end of the day, it's a free opportunity to gas your people up. You know what I mean? Like, I think just the benefits for the person that we were hyping up, seeing her new leader who took over last week, and then another like senior leader in the business, just gassing her up in front of a big boss, like what that has done for her positivity, her mental attitude coming into work, knowing that like it's being recognized, it's being rewarded, like all this hard work that she's putting in is going somewhere. I think it has its absolute weight in gold, and it's fun to do sometimes as well. You know, I think looking for those opportunities. If I'm in a meeting and someone's asking me a question, I'm always like, I'm too dumb to understand. I need to get one of my people to come and do this for me because they will know. And I don't know, but it gives someone that opportunity. Anything else you want to add to this topic, Jules? Any other burning thoughts around why, when, how developing people? Anything you think we've missed?
Yeah. The last thing I'll give as a tip, and this is for those managers talking to those people in that 18-month buck. Now, you're coming to the deadline, right? I would recommend all managers make sure your people have their resumes up to date, cover letters ready to go in that last 3 to 4 months. Have them ready to go at any given moment because you never know when the opportunity will arise. This is for you people that are applying for jobs, but also for managers having the conversation. Now, not everyone's got a strength around reading resumes and stuff. I think I personally offer that as a benefit to my people when they're talking to me. I go, okay, hey, look, let's have a look at your resume. What have you put in there? Hey, maybe we put some of those like achievements up the list because you want to get seen as like good for this job, for example. And so those are things that kind of help my people with because I genuinely want them to get these opportunities. But I think have those resumes ready because nowadays, especially, there's so much of interest for any given role across so many industries. There's so many layoffs and that kind of stuff that like it's very competitive out there. So you want to make sure that you're within that first 20 to 50 applicants. I've read a lot of kind of posts out there and studies out there that 20 to 50 applicants because let's face it, anyone in HR listening right now, we know you're not
reading too much.
Yeah, 100%. We know you're lazy, right? Like I'm going to put it there. We know you're lazy.
Facts, dude.
If there's 100 applicants, if you can get 10, interviews, 10 solid interviews out of the first 20 or 30, you're wrapping it up. But you're not going to read the 101st person no matter what. That could be CEO of Apple for all we care. But he was in 101.
All right, Simon Sinek with your Apple references.
Yeah, Apple. Yeah, a lot of Apple references.
Like for those of you who don't know, Jules and I are book club. I'm a little behind, but we're reading Start With Why. And let me tell you, that man loves he loves an Apple reference.
Yeah, like every 2 pages.
Bro, if he goes 2 pages without mentioning Apple in some form, it is literally a miracle. I can feel him like bursting at the seams to mention him.
Yeah. Simon, if you're listening, no hate, mate, but yeah, like the Apple reference is a bit much.
Actually, you're telling me that they're the only company that starts with Y. You're telling me he couldn't have like referenced them once at the start. I don't think, even if he just like took 50% of the references and left them as Apple, it would still be too much, I think.
Yeah, correct.
Like-
yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, cool. So yeah, make sure people have their resumes ready. Is the kind of wrapping that point up, and also making sure they're quick off the blocks. And all this, you can only have them at this position ready to go if you've done all the hard work in the last 6 to 12 months around networking, building their brand, making sure they're shadowing, making sure they're understanding what those leaders in those jobs are looking for in new employees as well.
Yep. I think you're absolutely on the money. I don't have anything else, Jules. So unless you do, I think that might be us for today. Anything else? No, that's it. Well, look, thank you very much for listening along. I hope you found this useful. I hope you at least understood why and how you should be developing your people. If there's anything that you think we've missed, or if there's anything you want us to go into more, detail on, anything you think we could go around, approach a little bit differently, do drop a comment. Let us know. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. Those kind of things definitely stoke conversation, and we could definitely add that into a subsequent video. But for now, if you have enjoyed what you've seen today, drop us a like, drop us a follow, a subscribe. It helps the channel out an absolute ton. Thank you so much.
Thank you.